Hello, students. I'm JVN Nehal Mittal, and your topic for today is financial powers. Today we are going to understand what are the financial powers that are there. So, India follows a federal structure where the powers are shared between both the center and the states. Though, however, the distribution of all these powers are not equal, and we often find states raising constant concerns about their extreme dependence on the union government for all the matters, thus limiting their powers and autonomy. Hence, it is called that the India follows a quasi-federal structure where the central government enjoys more powers over the states. Similarly, in the financial field too, the union government is more powerful than the states, and though there have been various reforms in the fiscal federalism from time to time, still there exists a wide variety of issues that needs to be addressed. So, Article 246 is the subject matter of union and states to make laws on taxation. This article provides a list of subjects giving power to the different levels of the government to make laws on them. Essentially speaking, there are three kinds of list mentioned under Article 246 that are as follows: there is a union list, there is a state list, and there is a concurrent list. The union list includes taxes like corporation tax, customs, excise, duties, taxes on income and other than agriculture income. Then the state list is includes taxes on vehicles, liquors, land revenue, entertainment, luxuries, stamp duties, sale or purchase of goods. Now the concurrent list is another list which gives power to both the center as well as the state government to make laws with regard to the subjects provided by the list 3. So list 3 does not include any major tax as such. This helps in avoiding competitive exploitation of the same source by both the authorities and overlapping of tax jurisdictions under the Indian Constitution. Further, in case of conflict, the central government decision will prevail over the state government decision. Then comes the distribution of powers for levying and collection of taxes. So, Article 281 of the Indian Constitution has made elaborate provisions that provide directions to the central relating to the distribution of financial resources among the states. It lays down principles for the centrals and the states to work in coordination for levying and collection of the taxes through systematic arrangements. The provisions for the time being can be summarized as explained. It includes Article 268 is the taxes levied by the union but collected and kept by the states. Article 269 are the taxes levied and collected by the union but assigned to the states. Article 270 are the taxes levied and distributed between the unions and the states. Article 273, 275, and 282 is grant and aid from the center to the state. Then there is sharing of proceeds from other taxes. So, in giving recommendations with regards to the distribution of funds between the center and the state, the Finance Commission mentioned under 280 plays a very important role. Then there is a amendment that was 101 amendment in the constitution, and the introduction of GST in the Indian economy has significantly changed the landscape of financial relations between the center and the states. Therefore, it is extremely important to have a basic knowledge of what GST is and its application and its different forms. Then Article 265, that is for the taxes that are not to be imposed save by the authority of law. So this is about the union and the state cannot levy or collect any tax except authorized by law. This is basically this means that the power of the center or the state government to levy and collect tax is not absolute power, as Article 265 of the Constitution of India imposes certain general and specific limitations on it. These restrictions can be easily understood after like if you understand the scope of the expressions that are used in this section. Then Article 266 is the consolidated funds and public accounts of India and of the states. In this, the consolidated funds and the public accounts of India and of the states, it lays down the definition of both of these consolidated funds and public accounts. Then Article 267 is the contingency fund. Under Article 267 of it provides the provisions like what is contingency fund of India and the contingency fund of state. Then Article 268 is the duties levied by the union but collected and appropriated by the state. So, this refers to the stamp duties levied by the union but collected and appropriated by the states. It includes stamp duties on bills of exchange, checks, and promissory notes as levied by the Government of India. These taxes are not included in the Consolidated Fund of India and appropriated by the same state in which it was levied, thus, they do not contribute to the Consolidated Fund of India. While in the case of union territories, the fund shall be appropriated to the Government of India. Further, as per the article, all the decisions regarding levying and appropriation of these duties rest with the central government as it forms a part of the union list. Then Article 269 are the taxes levied and collected by the union but assigned to the states. Then Article 269 is talking about the position of the GST regime. So, with the latest amendment, the new article of 269 was inserted, which brought some considerable changes. Then Article 270 is the taxes levied and distributed between the union and the states. So this basically deals with the subject of how the taxes are levied and distributed between the union and the states. Article 271 is the surcharge on certain duties and taxes for the purpose of the union. Article 273 are the grants in lieu of export duty on jute and jute products. Article 274 is the prior recommendation of President required to bills affecting taxation in which states are interested. Article 275 are the statutory grants. Article 282 is the discretionary grants. Then when you want to know that Article 276 empowers a state or other local authority to impose taxes on professions and trades, and but the total amount payable under any such tax shall not exceed 2500 rupees per annum. Earlier this limit was up to 50 rupees only and was raised after the recommendations of Sarkaria Committee in 1988. Then Article 277 is saving of pre-constitutional laws. Article 279 is about the calculation of net proceeds. 279A is the GST Council. 280 is talking about the Finance Commission, and it is a very important article as it deals with the Finance Commission of India. Article 280. So it lays down the composition, power, and functions of the Finance Commission. The idea of the Finance Committee has been borrowed from the Commonwealth Commission of Australia. So Article 280, in this the President has the power to set up a Finance Commission after a period of every 5 years, and the Finance Commission will assist the President by making recommendations to him regarding the distribution of net proceeds of taxes to be divided between the centre and the states. Then Article 281 is the recommendations of the Finance Commission. So it defines the process of how the recommendations of the Finance Committee will be introduced in Parliament. As per this article, the President of India shall cause to lay down all the recommendations that are made by the Finance Commission under the provisions of this Constitution, along with an explanatory memorandum before each House of the Parliament. Now there are effect of emergencies on center states financial relation. So during national emergency, the president in situations of emergency can order that all grant and aids received by the states by the union shall remain suspended. However, such suspension is only temporary in nature and it cannot go beyond the expiration of the financial year in which the proclamation of emergency ceases to operate. Now during the financial emergency, the center and the state financial relations changes considerably in case if a financial emergency is imposed as per section Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, and in such cases, the center becomes so powerful and exercises immense control over the states, compelling them to observe certain norms of financial propriety and other essential safeguards. So, the union government can give the following directions to the state. The first direction that it can give is it includes the directions to the state government regarding the reduction of the salary and allowances of all the employees engaged in service of state, which even includes judges of the high court. In situations of financial emergency, the president has the power to make any alteration in the distribution and allocation of taxes from the center to the states, and to direct the states to observe principles of financial propriety as laid down by the parliament. Further directions can also be issued compelling the states to reserve the consideration of the president on all financial and money bills even after they have been passed by the state legislature. So that's all for today. Thank you so much.